Hi everyone, welcome to Module 6, Health Misinformation and Your Wellness Outreach Projects. So this week we're going to focus on a couple of things. We're just about to jump into nutrition and fitness, and last week I had you do your nutrition log. I want you to hang on to that. Before we get into health and fitness, we need to talk a little bit about health misinformation. It's an important topic for this class anyway, because it is a foundational piece of wellness. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation about wellness out there, but nowhere is it more prevalent than in nutrition and fitness. And so we're going to talk a little bit about health misinformation and kind of lead you into looking at what that might look like before we get into nutrition and fitness. And then I'll talk a little bit more about that next week when we really dive into nutrition and fitness. The other piece of this week is just really getting you more grounded in your wellness outreach projects. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in this video, and then also get you grounded in doing the behaviors of your behavior change project. So this week is really kind of a smaller assignment as far as the health misinformation goes, but also, and which is kind of getting you ready for going forward, but also getting you grounded more in, okay, so what is your wellness outreach project going to look like? How are you going to navigate turning in? Most of you are doing social media, something around social media, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but how are you going to be getting that turned in? And I'm going to talk more about that. So okay, so let's just first talk about the health and misinformation assignment. Again, there is nowhere probably that I can think of that there's more misinformation about kind of a topic than in health and wellness. Health and wellness is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there is a lot of money invested in getting people to buy things that don't necessarily work. And have you throw your money away. And unfortunately, the more successful they are at not being successful, in other words, not delivering a lot of junk, then people still want to still keep buying the junk. So it's a super important topic. What we're going to do just to start out with that is I just want you to start to begin to look at resources out there that are selling something that is questionable. And then next week I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But right now I just want you to get your feet wet. So what does that look like? What I want you to do is I want you to just kind of start searching the internet for stuff that looks too good to be true. Right? It might be a diet out there, or it might be an piece of exercise equipment out there. For instance, I remember, and this is actually a really, really good piece of exercise equipment. When the Bowflex first came out, it's a beautiful piece of equipment. But unfortunately, the person that they had doing the exercises trying to sell you that piece of equipment had a beautifully sculpted body, but they had no body fat on their body. So you could see every single muscle, and it was beautiful. But what that commercial led you to believe was that if you just did that exercise or you just did that Bowflex machine, you would have a body that looked like the model on it. And the truth is as you'll find out when we go through kind of the fitness portion, that doing some kind of exercise like that isn't necessarily going to really get rid of the body fat that model, get you to the body fat percentage that model had. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this, but there's a lot of ways, a lot of really big ways, and a lot of more subtle ways that people will sell you stuff that doesn't work. For instance, I've been doing this a long time, so my examples kind of run the gamut of the last 30 years, but some of them have been really stronger examples, so I still use those examples. There used to be something called the ab roller, and the ab roller was a machine that kind of was supposed to put you in perfect position to be able to do kind of a sit-up or work on your abdominals. And the woman that was doing that had zero body fat. So you could see every single muscle in her abdomen. Unfortunately, there is a difference between exercise that's going to reduce body fat and exercise that's going to tone muscle. And they're both hugely important. But if you don't do both, you're not going to see the results of the woman that was on the ab roller. And the truth is, she probably ate 1 carrot in the last month. The truth is that her body fat was probably that low more from diet than from that exercise. Because working on muscle doesn't necessarily reduce body fat. And we're going to get a lot more into this next week. But it was total misleading advertising. And what happens is you would get that machine and it would say, oh yeah, by the way, follow this diet. But they didn't tell you that ahead of time. So what I want you to do is start looking at stuff that's too good to believe. And then I want you to find alternate sources that do question that. And it might be, like I said, like a diet. You know, I got on some random phone message, what do you call it, telemarketer, and I get a text, you know, every so often, usually about once a week, that says, you know, lose 35 pounds in 2 weeks. Isn't possible. But I wonder how many people that aren't in the field would go, oh my gosh, and click on that link and try to find something. So this industry has a lot to gain by telling lies. And so I want you to start weeding out through that. So what the assignment is I want you to go through and I want you to pick some articles that are selling health plans or products that look questionable to you. Could be an outright lie. I remember, sorry, again, this is kind of an older example, but Steve Garvey used to be like Mr. Clean of the Dodgers. He was with the Dodger infield. He used to have this infield, got, you know, 4 guys on the infield that stayed together for 10 or 12 years, and they were famous. They were more famous than any celebrity in LA. And Steve Garvey was the first baseman. They called him Mr. Clean. He was like the god of LA. And then years after he retired from baseball, you'd turn on an infomercial at night and he'd say, all those years of, you know, of exercising, and I didn't need to do it. All I needed to do was take this. And he held up a jar of pills and it was called Exercise in a Bottle. And they couldn't keep those on the shelf fast. I mean, they just were flying off the shelf, right? And then he also, you know, would hold up another companion bottle and it said, you lose weight while you sleep. And they were just total erroneous claims. But here it is, Steve Garvey standing up there. And, you know, if you were my age, Steve Garvey was like the god of baseball. And, you know, and they just couldn't keep these pills on the shelves. And actually, he was the first person that was ever fined. He was fined $10 million because it was just total lies, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to pick some kind of program, something, anything that you see off the internet that's selling something that looks really questionable. And then what I want you to go in is I want you to find some research that debunks it, right? So it might be a specific diet. You know, it might be, you know, like a 0 carbohydrate diet, and then go in and really look at some research that really might not be the healthiest thing for you to do. Okay, and again, this is, don't think this needs to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. I just want you to start looking and start looking. So I want you to go in and find some program, and then I want you to go in and find a couple kind of research-ish articles that question that first thing. And then I just want you to write up a summary. So you're going to write up a summary of what you found, and then you're going to write a couple paragraphs on kind of what's in question about what claims that thing is making. Okay, and again, we're just beginning to get our feet wet with this, so don't think this needs to be perfect as you go along, but I want you to really just start looking. I want you to start looking because you can't believe every claim that's out there. And especially if you're going to be working in this industry, you need to be able to educate people on what is junk and what is not junk out there. Okay, so you, again, that just needs to be one page. So I just want you to kind of give me a little summary of the thing that you found, and then I want you to give me a couple, a summary of one kind of research article that questions it, and another summary of another research article that questions it, and that's all that needs to be. So that's the health misinformation assignment, and then you're going to turn that link in. The rest of this week, I want you to really get into couple things. I want you to get into really kind of focusing on what that behavior change thing was that you turned in last week. And I want you to just document a summary of what you did this week. I don't want you to redo the whole behavior change. I just want you to kind of summarize some of the activities that you did this week that actually were aligned with that behavior change program. And so and I want you, as always, to engage in at least 2 wellness activities a day. And again, those can be really brief little things, whether your social wellness of just connecting with somebody. Again, they don't need to be huge activities. I just went for a walk with my dogs, whatever it is. So though that's going to be turned in one summary. So you're going to summarize what you did for your behavior change, and then summarize what you did for your wellness activities, label each part clearly, and then turn that in. And then the last thing that you're going to do is that I want you to really start thinking about your wellness outreach projects. I know a lot of you have started, and I've gotten a lot of questions about, okay, so how do we do this? How are we going to turn it in? How are we going to save it? So we've been working really hard on this part, and I'm going to give you some really specific instructions that, that you're going to need to follow to make sure that all of what you're creating actually gets to people that are going to see it. Because again, what this assignment is really based on the idea that in this field, oral communication is important. And you are actually, as kind of our whole program has certain assessments for this class, oral communication is one of the things that we're assessed on. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. That's not, but what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make with that is that oral communication in this field and in this class is very important. The reality about oral communication right now is it's done virtually. And so the idea is, how are you effectively communicating in an oral sense? In other words, most of the time spoken, or it could even be a blog, but we're trying to focus more on spoken stuff. Could be Instagram, could be we're using oral kind of loosely. How are you communicating wellness? And how are you encouraging wellness? And this is going to go on further throughout the semester. So how you're approaching it may change, but what I want to do is I just want you to give some really specific instructions now, because I know some of you have started, some of you haven't, that's fine, but I want you to really spend this week really kind of getting a routine down of how you're going to really dive into that project. And so these are the instructions about how we're going to do that. What we're doing with the wellness outreach projects. Most of you have given me at least an idea of what you're going to be doing. Again, the whole underlying concept of these projects are that it's some form of oral communication, and again, we're using the term oral kind of loosely, as outreach for being able to talk to, educate, inspire people in health and well-being. So that's kind of the underlying idea of what these whole projects are about. So what I've asked you to do is for you to determine what that would look like for you. Most people are doing something in social media. You don't have to, but most people are doing something in social media. It has to be oral communication. So, even if it's not like an Instagram where it's immediate social media, something like a YouTube video might work. But, and again, most people I've already gotten their ideas from, or you're already good. So it could be anything from, Facebook to Instagram to Twitter to writing a blog to doing a few different YouTube videos. But now we need to get them seen. Okay. And if you said that you were going to do something 3 times, if you're going to do an Instagram 3 times a week, you need to really be keeping up with that 3 times a week. Don't think you're going to do it, 20 times in the last week. You need to really be keeping that. Okay. So now the idea is to really do the outreach part, right? You're putting this stuff together, but how does it really get out there? So what we have done is we have created a Facebook page called Wellness Outreach. Now, the idea of that page is to serve as kind of a central point of disseminating all of your projects. So what that's going to look like is, first of all, you need to go on and you need to look at that site. If you do Facebook, if you don't do Facebook, that's totally okay. But I would encourage you to, even if you just do a profile for this class, because it's really cool to see your stuff going out there. And the link to the Facebook page, again, it's called Wellness Outreach. The link is under the course documents folder. Okay, so then the idea is, how are you going to get these links up? So we have about 11 people, I think, out of the class that are actually, their job, their wellness outreach project is to actually work as administrators for the Facebook page. So what you need to do is you need to go under the course documents folder, look at that look at the Facebook Wellness Outreach link and just get on and look at the page. Like it, follow it, send it out to all your friends. We already have like 220 people or a little bit more than that already following that page. But it would be really cool to just really get it out. A page is different than like a friend's page. Okay, this is what's called a professional page, so it works a little bit different. It's not like you have a ton of friends on this. People will actually follow the page. So every time you get something posted on that, it goes out. So I would look at that, like it, follow it, send it out to all you can invite your friends to like that page and to send that out so they can see all this stuff. Okay, but the next thing, and this is the more important thing that you need to do, is there's also under the course documents link, there's a folder and it says Wellness Outreach Projects. In that folder, there's a link for a Google Drive. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in and hit that link for the Google Drive. You'll be in the Google Drive. Now, there's going to be a master sheet. Now, again, there's 200 of you enrolled in this class. So you're all assigned to a specific administrator. So their name and their email. Don't email them unless you absolutely have to. They're not your contact person for any question. What their job is to get your links on the Facebook page. So what I want you to do is just go to that master list, and then in that Google Drive, you'll see, okay, so look down and say, okay, I look for my name and I see that Diva's the person that's assigned to me as my administrator. So then up above there, you're going to see all these folders, and all the folders have names on them, and those are all the administrators. So then you're going to go into your administrators folder, right? So then I would go, if I was assigned to Diva, I would go into Diva's folder, and that's where I'm going to submit my link. So I want you guys, if you're doing Instagram, you're going to be submitting 3 times a week. You need to make sure a couple things. You need to put your name there associated with every single link, because they need to know who it's coming from. You also need to put your email there. So if there's a question about the link and they don't understand or it's not working, they need to be able to get a hold of you. So you need to put your name, you need to put your contact information, and then you need to put the link. And so then what their job is to take your links, to look at them, and then to kind of see what they're about, and then just put a couple, sentence introduction summary on the Facebook page with the link to try to get people to open up your link. So all the Facebook page is going to be the central place that all of your wellness outreach projects kind of get disseminated from. Okay, and then what they're going to do is they're going to kind of schedule when they go out, so we don't overload people with 100 at once and then none. So it's really important, if you said you're going to do something 3 times a week, it's really important that you do it 3 times a week, not add it all up and turn 30 in 10 weeks from now. Okay, it's really important because our goal in that page is to just to keep information going out, keep information going out. So every day there's probably going to be maybe 10 messages sent out on that Facebook page about everybody's different projects. Okay, now if you're doing a YouTube video, again, I require that if you're doing a YouTube video, because they're longer, you don't have to do as many, but it should still be kind of within that 5 to 7 minute range, because you know, something on Facebook isn't really going to keep people's attention that much longer. And again, remember, this is on any area of the dimensions of wellness. So some people are picking, what does emotional health look like during the pandemic? Some people are picking, what does physical health look like? Some people are just kind of doing a little bit on each, right? This is emotional health, this is physical health. You know, some people are doing how you cook, or some people are doing, you know, effective communication during, you know, whatever you want to do. It has to fit under the class content. So, which is pretty broad, right, for all the different dimensions of wellness. So it needs to fit under the class content. But I also want you to think about effective method of delivery, because that's really kind of what the whole basis of this information or this whole assignment is about. It's not just getting the information out there, it's doing it in a way that's really effectively inspiring or educating people on health and well-being. Okay, so, and again, I know that we haven't covered that yet in the class. We're getting there. So as you do these posts, they're going to probably keep improving. Once you start learning more about effective communication, once you start looking at, I want you to look at some of the other posts too and see, wow, that was really effective, or no, that wasn't very effective. I want you to really kind of look at what is effective and what is kind of really reaching people's interests and stuff like that. So again, kind of take home message here is, if you haven't decided yet, you need to decide what you're doing. If you've already decided, and a lot of you I know have already started, and I just emailed you back saying save the links. So now what you do is you go under the course documents folder, you find out who your administrator is, you go into that administrator's file, and you start posting your links along with your name and your email. You might kind of give a little couple words about describing what it is. You know, this is on emotional wellness, right? And so then they can look at the link, they can then take that link, put it on the Facebook page, and introduce it. And then it's going out to you know, the whole cyber community. But I also highly encourage you to go onto that Facebook page, like it, follow it, so you can start seeing what the whole class is doing. This should be a really fun assignment. I know it's one of the major things in the class about assessment, but it should be a really fun assignment, and I want it to be fun for you, and I certainly want it to be fun for the people that it's going out to. Okay, so please, again, please keep up with it. Have it be fun, be creative, and follow it. You know, follow it and see what's going out with that. So I will hopefully that's enough information. I'll address any questions I get along the way in future modules, but that should be enough to get you started. So let me just back up. Again, this week is really about, number one, doing the misinformation assignment, but then also steeping yourself more in your behavior change, just doing those behaviors and just kind of summarizing what you're doing this week and summarizing what you're doing with your wellness, and then also really beginning to dive into that wellness outreach project. If you've already started, get those links posted. If you haven't started, you need to get started. You need to decide what you're doing and get started. Okay, so, and then I want you to just kind of write a summary of what you did. The summary may be, I decided what I was going to do because I'm behind and I hadn't decided yet. So it may just be decided what you're going to do and then write it up. It might be, you know, just, oh yeah, my summary is that I had all these links saved up because I've been doing it for a couple weeks and I just posted that. I just want to know kind of the summary of where you are with that. So your turn-ins, your deliverables for this week are going to be the health misinformation assignment. And again, that doesn't need to be really in depth. We're going to keep building on that, but I do want something that you identified as health misinformation, a summary of what that was, and then 2 different articles kind of questioning the validity of that and summarizing those 2 articles. So it, you know, somewhere between 3 to 5 paragraphs, but just on one document. Okay, so you're going to turn in your health misinformation. Again, you're going to turn in kind of your behavior change summary of what you did this week for working towards your behavior change, and then also your wellness, what you did this week that are, you know, your wellness activities. And again, you're just summarizing that. And then I also want you to summarize the work that you did working on your wellness outreach project. And that's going to be varied depending on where you are. Might be figuring it out. It might be posting the links. You know, it might be creating some of the links. Whatever it is, I just want a little summary. So it doesn't have to be more than a paragraph. But I want to see that you're working on it. Okay, so this week is really about, you have that one assignment, but then I also want to just see you putting work into both your behavior change and your final project. Okay, have a really good week. See ya.